This is the MyExcelOnline podcast, episode number 12.
Excel takes me all over the world, and it's amazing. You can get off a plane, completely different time zone, completely different, language, you don't understand anything that's going on, and yet the principles of financial modeling are exactly the same. The formulas are exactly the same. So Excel is the same all over the world.
Welcome to the MyExcelOnline podcast, the need-to-know Excel insights, knowledge, and tips brought to you by the experts that know them best. Are you ready to explore your full potential and get better at Excel? It's time to stand out from the crowd with your host, John MICHALOUDIS.
G'day guys, and welcome to the MyExcelOnline podcast with your host, John MICHALOUDIS. In today's episode, we have an MBA and expert in financial modeling with 2 L's. She started her financial modeling business back in 2004 with a view to help her clients create meaningful financial models in the form of business cases, pricing models, and management reports. She's the author of Using Excel for Business Analysis, a guide to financial modeling fundamentals, which is jam-packed with both financial modeling essential concepts and practicalities of performing complex analysis in Excel. She's a speaker, course facilitator, and runs regular training seminars around the globe and has a financial modeling group in LinkedIn, which has over 40,000 members. Let's welcome from sunny Sydney, Australia, Danielle Stein Fairhurst. Hello, Danielle. How are you?
Hi, John. I'm good. Thank you.
Great to have you on the show. And before we get started, how is the weather in Sydney in November of 2016?
Oh, it's beautiful. We just started to really get into summer in the last couple of days, and I thought, here we go. It's all started to get really sticky and humid. I don't know if you can remember that, John, but it's really horrible. And then the last couple of days is really beautiful. It's just cooled off a bit, so it's not too bad.
Nice. I miss the summers in Australia. Last time I was there.
Oh, no, you don't. I
do. Last time I was there was back in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I left in 2008 to go to Europe to search, for work and also to find a wife. No.
Yeah.
And, so I'm in Spain now, and today it snowed. It actually snowed 3 degrees.
It's beautiful though. It's lovely.
It is. I like, I used to hate the winter, but I like the changes in weather, and snow is nice.
Yeah, the seasons is lovely. Yeah.
Seasons are lovely, or else you just get, it gets boring. So I get to appreciate that. All right. I've told our listeners a little bit about your background. Tell us more about yourself and your journey into becoming a financial model expert.
Yeah, I guess I've just always been a financial modeler, I suppose. I guess I didn't know what that was called, but I started out in investment banking in the UK in the 90s, as most Aussies go off to London and travel, and just kind of landed, went off armed with a business degree and sort of started working in Excel, and then found that I, absolutely loved it and had an aptitude for it, and just kind of always worked in Excel. And I suppose it wasn't really until probably, early 2000 before I realized, when I came back to Australia and realized that it was called financial modeling, the structure of using Excel for financial analysis and financial models. Yeah, and then just sort of specialized in that and got more into it.
Interesting. So for our people that don't know what financial modeling is, can you expand upon that and just let them know what it is? Because to some people it's foreign to them, and financial modeling and Excel, they're probably thinking, how does that relate? So can you just expand just a little bit and just tell our listeners what is a financial model or how you use it within Excel?
Yeah. It sounds really fancy, doesn't it, when you call something a financial model? But it's really not that complicated. And I'm actually writing a new book on called Financial Modeling for Dummies. So, and I'm going into a lot of the the fundamentals about what a financial model is in that book at the moment. And basically, it's just using Excel for the purpose of structuring finances. Generally, it's for the an acquisition of a business, or pricing, or basically to just make financial decisions. Yeah, that's pretty much what a financial model is. I mean, there's certain things that you say that make a financial model. Not every spreadsheet is by definition a financial model, but basically it's just using Excel for the purpose of, sort of making financial decisions. So, it has scenarios and hypotheticals. Yeah.
So you have your revenue and expenses on, going down a column, and on the across you'll have your months and years, and you plot it in there. Is that pretty much it? Because just from what I use as financial models, that's pretty much it.
Yes.
And there are a lot of variables, right? You put a lot of variables based on taxes and seasonality and all that.
Yeah. So usually, it normally would have time series in it. So you'd sort of start from left to right. So normally you'd sort of have months across the top or years or whatever it is. And, you can't just have hard-coded numbers. It needs to be formulas. And that's kind of the point of using Excel, really, isn't it? Is in order to use formulas. So once you're, building something like that, then, by definition, that, is a financial model, really. But it needs to have variables. So, you change the whole point of it is that you change the inputs and the outputs change.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And in what situations would you use a financial model in your field?
Usually it's when you need to make a decision or you need the answer to something. So most of what I do is in sort of coming from a management accounting background. So it's for, often it's profitability analysis. So you're trying to decide, well, hey, should we purchase this asset, or what price should we price our product at, or what is our budget, or how much can we afford to pay for something, that kind of thing. And you sort of put in all the inputs and then you come up with the answer based on your financial model.
Interesting. So you've seen a lot of financial models around your time.
I have.
Yeah?
I have.
And
pretty much all I do, all I've ever done.
Wow. And is it interesting? What keeps you in there? What keeps you motivated, working in that industry, in financial modeling?
Yeah, I guess it's, I suppose I'm really into the simplicity of it, and I really like that challenge of taking something. And that's, part of why I'm writing this book as well, to take something that sounds really complicated and break it down into its sort of basic parts. And I do a lot of training as well, and for people to realize, well, hey, it's actually not that complicated. What I'm doing already is okay. I'm building financial models already. There's just a few kind of structural best practice things, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, about the inputs and the variables and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's really not that complicated, or not as complicated as it sounds.
Interesting. And your clients, the businesses that you work for, or people that need financial models, which sectors or which companies are looking into that?
Yeah, it's so varied. It's amazing. It's one of the things I absolutely love. I always joke that I could actually wear the same outfit for weeks on end and nobody would notice, because I'm always with different people. I'm always going around to, different places. And it's either for training or speaking and also for consulting. So I'll sort of go into organizations and help them. Usually they've sort of got a financial model and it's not working properly, or they need to build something, or they haven't quite got the expertise that they in-house that they need, or they just need a little bit of guidance on it. So many different situations, and they could be big business, it could be banking, or sometimes it's just a small business who just, need to come up with a budget or valuation or something like that. Yeah.
Nice. And is there a big demand for financial modelers as a job per se?
Is there ever? It's just become, and I think, when I started out, as I say, I didn't really call it that. I didn't really realize, that's what you called it. And now, just in the last few years, I've noticed, any kind of, finance role, quite often it'll have, requirements for financial modeling as part of, the requirements for the job. I just think it become in such high demand. And I often think the people who are hiring don't necessarily know what it is. It just sounds good. They seem to just put it on the job requirement list.
They're probably looking for someone that's handsome or beautiful, being a model.
Yeah.
And works in finance. So they say, give me a financial model.
Yes, not that sort of model, John. No, not that sort of modelling.
Okay. And then financial modeling, I see it sometimes spelled with 2 L's or with 1 L. Your book has with 2 L's. What is that?
Well, it depends which book you're talking about. Yes. I spell it with 2 L's because that's how we spell it in English.
Australia, that's right.
In
It's
Australia,
Australian English, proper English.
Well, British English. But US English is with 1 L. So yeah, sometimes Australians use both, so it causes a bit of confusion. And my new book, because it's being published in the US and it's mostly for the US market, we are spelling it with 1 L.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Now, what is the weirdest and coolest thing you've seen done with a financial model throughout your travels all over the world?
Oh gosh, yeah. I've seen some really, really interesting things. Yeah, I've got a client in Saudi, which was lots of fun. It was a budget. It was huge, and that was interesting because they couldn't actually get me into the country, couldn't get me a visa, so I had to come over to Bahrain, and they'd come across the border and meet with me and go back again, and that was quite a fun project. But I've seen all sorts of things done with Excel, with consulting. Probably one of the funniest was with a client that was, I used to do all of their financial modeling for investments, but it was for a quite a well-known entrepreneur, and his son was getting married in New York, and he asked me to put together the guest list and the wedding plan, and we sort of did this pivot table for the RSVPs and for the plans and everything. And I'm sure you've seen that sort of thing done before. It was like,
His wedding. How many guests did you have to do a pivot table? Wow.
Oh, it was hundreds. And there were all these different events as well, and it got quite complicated.
And you had to use Excel to plan his wedding.
Yeah. I'm sure there's nowadays I'm sure there's an app for that, definitely.
And how did and the wedding, how did it go?
Good. I think so I had to train his PA to use it so they could do last minute changes and refresh pivot table. That's the most important thing. Yeah,
exactly. Automatic refresh. Let's see if they have that. Well, that's weird, isn't it? But that's cool as well at the same time. Now, I see financial modeling all over the web. You browse it and you see there's news on financial modeling. So it is the in thing at the moment, and a lot of people are working towards becoming better financial modelers. And I had a look that there is a financial model world championship, and that's by Model Off. Now, I knew about this last year, and I actually applied and I did the exam.
Oh, did you do it this one? Just gone?
No,
last
the one
year?
in 2015. Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
And the exam, I thought, let me just do it. Let's see this, this should be easy. And it was like, we had about 20, 30 questions. It started off easy.
How'd you go?
Well, not good. Even if you're good in Excel, it doesn't mean you're going to be good in in financial modeling.
Exactly.
I've got the Excel stuff, right, the shortcuts, and the financial modeling stuff I could get, but you need to practice it.
I always say there's a lot more to financial modeling than just the Excel stuff. I mean, it's a really good starting point, but there's a lot more to it. All the problem solving and all of that.
It is. And I realized that, okay, that's not for me. And I see if you go to modeloff.com that there's a lot of, the winners. There's every year the winners are there, and they're like, super fast and super quick. Have you been there? Have you met these people? And what makes a financial model world champion?
Yeah. Lots of different things makes a financial model world champion. I haven't been to the finals, but they have a training camp. They had the first one was in Sydney this year, and I spoke at that conference. So I've met a lot of the guys. Yeah, it's a fantastic initiative. It's great to see financial modeling getting such a high profile. It's such a competitive field, and I think it's great. The person who wins this year, is going to be. They can basically be, they'll be the financial modeling world champion, which is absolutely amazing. The guys who organise it are from Melbourne, yeah?
Yeah. Well, Australian guys.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Go
good stuff. Flying the flag. We are all flying the flag. Nice one. Hopefully I'll be a financial model world champion, but not at the moment, not in the next couple of years or 10 years.
But the great thing about them is that if you go in it, and they actually publish all of the questions, so you can go in and, and test yourself, not being in that kind of competitive environment, but you can still get access to all the all the exam questions. If you're trying to prepare, if you're preparing for an interview or just want to test your financial modeling skills, you can download all of the test papers and see how you stack up.
Yeah, no, I think it's more practice. The more you practice, the better you get. And I think the top 5 that come out of there get good jobs afterwards, like in investment banking. And so, yeah, if you guys out there want to test it out and, test your skills against the best, then go on modeloff.com and, have a look at when the next championship is on and go for it. I think it's fun and it'll be great to test everything out.
Finals are in London this year, and I think the rounds open up in October every year.
That's right. Yeah, they open up in October every year, and this year they're in London. Good stuff. All right, thanks for that. Now let's talk a little bit about your book, your first book, Using Excel for Business Analysis, a guide to financial modeling fundamentals. Just tell us a little bit about your book and what to expect, and also where they can buy it from.
Yeah. Well, it's available on Amazon. It's probably the easiest place to get it. So you can, order it in hard copy or Kindle. It's probably one of the most fundamental books out there on financial modeling. So it's very much based around the Excel. Obviously you need to be really good at Excel to be a good financial modeler, but it just kind of takes you through the fundamentals that you really need to know to be a financial modeler, and then the practical use of those functions and tools and formulas, like, for example, a goal seek. You need to know goal seek, of course, but how do you use it? How would you actually, and that takes you through how to do a break-even analysis, for example. So it's not just a goal seek, it's like using a goal seek in the context of a financial model, and then how to model depreciation, or how to, actually put together all of these bits and pieces that may or may not make up your financial model. Obviously, not every financial model has depreciation, but a lot of them do, for example.
Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff there. Awesome. And it's a big book, isn't it? It's thick.
It's pretty hefty. It's about 300 pages or so.
How many pages?
But it's about 300 or so
300 pages. And how long did it
take? 400. I'm just looking at it now.
400.
Over 400. And I think there's over 300 screenshots. So
wow.
I've actually made all of the Excel models that we use to create the book. I've actually made those available online as well. So it gives you the reference of where you can find those. So you can download all of the files that we use. So you can, when you look at a screenshot of how somebody did something in Excel, and you just want to get into it and say, well, how did they do that?
Yes.
What's in the other cell? And so I've made all of that available as well.
Stuff.
And of course, when people come on my training, I use it as a training manual, of course, as well.
Well, 400 pages, it has to be a training manual. It's a Bible.
Yeah.
All right. And how long did it take you to complete that?
Yeah, I had a lot of it already because it started as a training manual.
Okay.
And then I got the invitation from Wiley to write it. And it still took about 6 months to put together. Yeah.
I thought you just put a cover and that's it. And then here you go.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. I thought, I've got most of it already, but it was actually a lot harder than it looks. And now I'll go, and after I finished that book, I said, never again.
Yes.
And until I got the invitation for Dummies, which, and now I'm going through the process all over again, which is kind of
book, the Dummies book.
Yeah, the for Dummies yellow thing. So that's actually even a tighter time frame. That's actually really the schedule is absolutely a killer on that. It's you got to write the whole, and they all, every for Dummies book seems to be like that. They sort of put a very tight schedule around the writing of the book, which is actually good in a way because you just get very focused on the writing, and just get really into it. It makes it quite coherent because you're sort of really focusing on that one thing. And I've just passed my 50% deadline, so I'm halfway through. So
all right.
The whole thing has to be done in about 4 months.
And how many pages would that be?
That's about 300 pages or 350 pages, I think. Yeah.
Wow. That's for Dummies. It's 350 pages.
Yeah, it's really, really, the thing is about for Dummies, it's actually, I've read a lot of those books, in preparation for writing this, and it's not that they're really basic, because they are really basic, but they go into more detail, and
Okay.
you sort of have to start from so it's kind of like a prequel to my other book, really.
Yes.
Like it's just starting from, it goes into things in quite advanced stuff, but you have to start at a really basic level, like press, click cell D3,
Okay.
press the equal sign. No, not that bad. But
Turn on computer.
Yes. Open up Excel.
Yes. Where is Excel? Office 365. All right. You need to
And then it
buy
kind of goes very quickly. And then it quickly kind of goes right into blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Here's how you do this.
Oh, good stuff. So when's that going to be available for our listeners?
April of 2017.
In April 2017. All right. When this goes live, it'll be December 2016. So you'll have to wait a few more months. Beautiful. Now, before we go on and talk about your courses, your financial modeling courses, let's talk a little bit about your website, Plum Solutions. It's plumsolutions.com.au for people who don't have the link there. So put that in there. First questions, why Plum?
I just like the name. Plum is like the fruit, is like a good, a plum job is something that's nice. It's got good connotations. And my favorite colors are purple and orange. So that's my kind of company colors. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say because you like plums and, you like making jam and all that. So
yeah, we don't really get a lot of plums in Australia.
No.
I think they're like a cold weather fruit.
It is. We'll get them here in Spain. Nice. All right. Yeah, because I saw your website several years ago. I think there was
it's around for a while.
Yeah. And I didn't know that, and I think I spoke to you back then when I was an amateur in Excel, when I was working in the corporate world. So, it's a nice website you have. Just tell us a little bit about how it evolved from the day that you started.
Yeah, I probably was fairly early adopter on the website and the online courses. So I've been running the online courses. I think the first one I launched was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. It's been quite a while, and sort of started, with recording videos in my bedroom. Pretty basic. They were pretty basic when I started out, and in the the current ones that are available now, we've been able to hire out a studio for the day, and they're all sort of very professionally shot. So it was, back then I didn't really know if there was going to be a demand for it. So I just kind of, did, I think I had, the sort of home camcorder. I was sitting on my balcony with the harbour bridge in the background. That was my first couple of videos.
Nice backdrop.
My brother's a web designer, so he helped me. So that's probably the reason why I was able to get online, so easily, so early. And started with the social media and started the LinkedIn group in 2009. And again, was probably one of the first people to set up a financial modelling and Excel group, so that you get that sort of critical mass where it grows very quickly. So now it's probably one of the most popular financial modelling LinkedIn groups that's out there. So we get lots of, really good discussions and comments through LinkedIn. Yeah.
I know you got 40,000, 41,000. I just checked. That's great.
Yeah, good. And I and last year started meetups. So as a spin-off from that, started doing face-to-face meetups, because I just, as a bit of a backlash against the whole online thing, I just found we, as modelers or, Excel people and people building financial models, we spend so much time behind the screen, just talking to our Excel formulas, and it's quite nice to get out there and network with each other, and, but using the social media as a platform, but for people as a, creating a place for people to engage with each other and talk and network. And some of us are not very good at networking. It's quite funny. We'll turn up and to these live events, and they sit there on their phones. And I get out there and network.
True.
Talk to each other. So we run the meetup groups. I run the ones that are in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So obviously Sydney is the most active one, because I am there probably we do them about once a month actually in Sydney. So they're pretty frequent. And Melbourne and Brisbane. And we have somebody who runs it in Perth. We have one in New York. We have London, Johannesburg, Amsterdam, all over. So if there's anyone who's interested in starting one, I'm happy to support you and help you promote it.
All right. And they can get in contact with you. And how do they find out about the places? They can go on your website about the actual current meetups that are available?
Yeah, just plumsolutions.com.au/meetup.
Okay.
Is there, but everything is on that website, and all the dates on the homepage. Actually, all the upcoming dates are all listed on there, so you can see, where everything. So if I look at what's coming up next, we've got dashboard course coming up next week, and then next week there's a meetup in New York, and then there's something coming up in Adelaide, and then there's Sydney. I think our next meetup in Sydney is coming up in December. Yeah, so it's all listed on there.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much. Yeah, you have a lot of information on your website, and it's a lot of great information, great tutorials, and free and paid training. So guys, get on there, plumsolutions.com.au. And
yeah, don't forget the AU.
Yes, don't forget the AU, which stands for Australia, and you'll get straight into there. Good stuff, Danielle. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Okay, let's take a short break, and we'll be back with your financial modeling online course.
Can you analyze this spreadsheet using Excel pivot tables?
Sure, if you can show me how to.
Introducing the Extreme Pivot Table online course, which teaches you how to analyze business data and highlight key metrics so that you can make insightful business decisions, create interactive analytical dashboards that will reach top management, and set you apart from your peers, which will make you more important and increase your chances of a promotion or pay rise. Developed over 15 years through extensive professional use and including real business case studies, it is the ultimate pivot table course. With over 200 short downloadable video tutorials accessible online anywhere 24/7. 12-month personal support if you ever get stuck, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Visit MyExcelOnline.com today and give your professional development the boost it deserves.
Okay, welcome back to the MyExcelOnline podcast. We've got Danielle Stein Fairhurst from plumsolutions.com.au, and she is going to share with us her financial modeling courses that she has on her website. And first question to you, Danielle, why did you decide to create this course, this online course? Was it a spin-off from your book, or was the course first and then you had your original book published?
No, I already had online courses. So my online courses have been around for a long time, and I've just sort of keep revising them and keep updating them. And it just makes sense to me that people can take the courses, whenever and wherever they want to.
Yeah, no, it's great. And what courses do you currently have on there? Obviously, it's a financial modeling course. And I'll see that you have, 3 different levels on there.
Yeah. So with the face-to-face training, I do Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane face-to-face. So we do financial modelling, budgeting and forecasting, and data analysis and dashboards as workshops. But I'm still working on getting those others online. But at the moment, it's just the financial modelling is available as online courses. So that's, as you said, introduction, intermediate and advanced. And people often tend to do those as a mix. Like they might do the intro course online, and then they'll come to a face-to-face workshop, and then kind of mix and match depending on their schedule. Or people from all over the world, even if they can't make it to a face-to-face workshop, they'll just do the whole thing online. And some people, they get access for 12 weeks, but some people will sign up and within sort of a couple of days they've been through the whole lot, like a binge watch. Mm-hmm. And do the whole lot back to back. Yeah, they do the whole lot back to back. Or they can kind of I think probably most people find it works best when they do like an hour every day. They maybe sit down every morning and do an hour, or in the evening, or whatever it works, and then you build a financial in each course. So like introduction, intermediate, advanced, each is a full day course, like it's in place of a day in the classroom, so it's quite intense. Mm-hmm. And for each of those courses, you have to build your own financial model from scratch. Wow. So yeah, so you have to like be building. You get a layout, but something to fill and very detailed instructions. But you have to kind of build that during the course, and then at the end of the course you submit that and it gets checked before you get a certificate, and there's like quiz questions and all of stuff that you have to work through.
All right, so you go in there as a dummy pretty much and then come out of it as an expert.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, let's go through each of them. We've got the introduction to financial modeling in Excel, and you have 4 different modules. If you can just quickly explain what our listeners can expect from this online course, or the the classroom course.
Yeah. So it's quite the introduction course is quite fundamental, and it's pretty much at the starting point of the For Dummies book I was talking about, and it starts quite from a fairly sort of basic level. But people often, even though they've been financial modeling for a while or they've been using Excel, there's kind of the 2 sides to it. There's your Excel technical skills, and then there's your financial and modeling skills as well. So some people will be really good at Excel, but they don't really know the design or the layout or the best practice for financial modeling, or they might be a modeler, but they need to up their Excel skills. So there's kind of the courses work from both sides. And, some people will be walking through it and they go, oh, and it'll go through, how to do something technical, and they go, yeah, I know how to do that. And then they can just fast forward, which makes it, quite time efficient. Or they could go, hang on a sec, I didn't quite get that. And then they can rewind it and go through it again. And people who then come on my workshops go, oh, I wish I could just pause you, stop you, rewind you.
Yeah.
Which of course you can't do when you're in a live environment. So that's one of the good things about doing the courses online.
You have the financial modeling introduction, the fundamentals Excel tools, building a financial model, and a model analysis tools. And within that, there are several different features and tutorials. So
each of them kind of follows the same structure. So the introduction is sort of like, background and best practice and design, and then it goes into the technical tools. Then you build your financial model in the 3rd module, and then in the last module is the analysis and the after stuff, because we often find people have spent so much time building their model and making sure the numbers are right, of course, which is the most important thing. But then it's the presentation and that's this kind of output of interpreting, analysing and presenting their financial model, which a lot of people don't necessarily do such a great job, because you've spent so long, getting the numbers right, and you're exhausted, and you've spent so long working on this model, and like, oh, here it is, and it's just like this really boring thing with grid lines, and nobody can really make sense of it. So you need to allocate time at the end to be able to present it and think about, somebody looking at it for the first time, and so that they can make sense of it and it's actually usable.
And that's an issue that everyone goes through, and I went through that as well when I was working, because you're so caught up in getting the numbers right, and you've got a tight time frame, and then you're like, here it is, and then you're like, oh man, if I could have just make it prettier, but then So do you show that? Do you show how to make it prettier and more presentable?
Absolutely. Yeah, because you forget that you've been living and breathing this model for days or weeks or even months sometimes, and you know it inside out, and you forget that when you present this to someone else, this is the first time they've seen it and it doesn't make sense to them. So you need to present it in such a way that they have confidence in it and that they can understand what it's telling you, because when it comes to Excel, people who are not Excel, we're Excel. When you and I are Excel people, we live and breathe this stuff. But for most people, they don't like it. They kind of, their eyes glaze over as soon as they see the grid lines, and you sort of got to make it palatable and make it presentable for people who don't live and breathe this stuff every day.
Yeah. Make it stand out. I think, if you have a lot of negative numbers in there, it's going to stand out. So,
yes,
that's
absolutely.
the first thing you're going to see.
And the scenarios, of course, because often the worst case scenario is always the one you want to look at to say, well, hey, what if everything that could go wrong does go wrong in our forecast? What's the worst that can happen? That's what they really want to know.
Yeah. And a good tip will be hide red negative numbers. And you can actually do that in Excel.
No, hide. Don't. No. You don't hide. No,
you
don't
can make
hide.
them black. You can make them black and without a negative. You can actually do that. So, but that's a cool trick. Okay. The next course, you have the intermediate one.
It's a similar kind of structure. So we sort of do the background and the best practice and then tools. With this one, we actually go into a lot more in formulas. We do a lot of lookups and, forecasting, regression analysis, looking at which formula we would use, that sort of thing. Then we go into more sort of techniques, calculating the WACC, the weighted average cost of capital, how to use the net present value, the NPV function. We build that into that. We actually do a business case, so we like a feasibility study. So we've got a brand new project. What how is that going to look? What are the numbers going to be? So we've got all the assumptions and the input, and we actually build that model. So the first course is just a cash flow. The second course is a feasibility study or a business case, and the advanced course is it's a funding model, so it's a full P&L cash flow balance sheet. So 3 different types of models in each course.
All right, this looks very interesting. Having a look at this second course, the intermediate course, you've got the Excel tools, essential formulas, as you said, the financial modeling techniques, the NPV and IRR, internal rate of return.
Yep.
Building a business case and analyzing and presenting your model. That looks very interesting. Indeed, I wish I had this when I was working back then. And wow, this looks very, very nice. Very nice. This is great. Let's go on to the advanced one. Now, after the first 2 courses, they're going to come out of it thinking these guys, experts. And this advanced course is just going to bring everything together and put you above the rest of your colleagues and peers.
Yeah. So it takes you through more, the more sort of advanced tools, like, whether you would use an array formula or not. Usually not. Mm-hmm. So it's we do also talk about just because it takes you through advanced tools, but then just because you know how to do these advanced tools, it doesn't mean that you necessarily should be building them into your financial models. So it's very important to keep things as simple as possible. So we talk about rebuilding an inherited model, taking apart somebody else's model. So I'd love for somebody to come to me and say, hey, we've got a brand new financial model. We need you to build it from the ground up. And that very rarely happens. Usually they say, oh, we've got this model and it's not working properly. And, those kind of skills that you need, auditing tools, because often you're taking over somebody else's model. Often you inherit a model and then you're expected to use that model and continue with it. And that's really scary because you don't want to be inheriting somebody else's mistakes. So, that sort of possibility for error is quite terrifying. If you're building a financial model, that's probably the worst thing that can go wrong, is having an error, a formula mistake or a logic mistake in your financial model. So we spend a lot of time on, trying to reduce the possibility for errors in your financial models.
And how do you do that? Is that just putting in an audit formula where it just sums up different cells and it's not dependent on the actual model itself?
Yeah, so there's lots of audit tools that you can use. So, things like, under the formulas bar, there's a whole auditing section, tracing errors, evaluate formula, error checking, show formulas, all of that stuff. But then, a couple of shortcuts like, when you hit control back square bracket. Do you use that one where it jumps backwards and forwards? So control back square bracket takes you back to the first precedent of the formula, so where the formula came from. And then if you hit control G and then enter, or F5 and then enter, it takes you back to where you were, because when you're trying to take apart somebody else's formulas or somebody else's models, you spend a lot of time trying to trace through what the heck their formula is doing. And, using some of these shortcuts can make things a lot easier. Or like, if you highlight part of the formula, go into, if you've got a big, long, complicated formula and you're like, what on earth is that person? What were they thinking when they built it? We always say not to create long and complicated formulas, and we try not to, but often, you're taking apart somebody else's formula and they've done this horrible, long, complicated thing. And if you highlight part of the formula that makes sense in its own right and then hit F9, that will give you the value of that part of the formula. So those sorts of tips that can make auditing or rebuilding somebody else's model a lot easier. But of course, if you're building your own model from scratch, there are things that you can do to reduce the possibility for errors, by structuring things well, by using consistent formulas, constantly checking and building error checks in your models can also reduce the possibility for error as you're building the model.
A lot of nice tips there. The F9 one, I use that all the time. It's my favorite, where you highlight a part of a formula within a formula, and it gives you the result. That's great. And also the F5, where it goes on to your formula, whether it's on another sheet, so you can look up the formula. That's good as well. I'm going to put all these tips that you just said on the show notes, so people can actually go on there afterwards and learn how to use all these great tips that you just shared with us. So thank you for that. That's great. And it looks like a great course here. I just go quickly with this advanced course. We talk about theory and best practice, advanced tools and functions, which has, the offset, lookup, transpose, advanced techniques in there, which you also include how to create a waterfall chart, which is very popular.
Well, now we've got 2016.
Yes.
You don't, which is great, but not everyone is using it 2016 yet. So there's actually a blog article on my website which shows you how to build it using, I don't know if you've ever used the up-down bars method. I find it much easier than using a dummy stack. So if you're not using 2016 yet, you can actually, build one using the old version of Excel.
Yes. Well, a lot of people don't have 2016. They'll probably wait another 4 years to get that. And you can use that. You can create a waterfall chart without having just by using formulas. And that's, it's a great workaround. And on the course, you end with scenarios and sensitivity analysis and practical financial modeling.
Yeah, each of the courses you actually finish. I mean, the whole point of building a financial model is so that you can do sensitivity analysis and scenario analysis on each of the models at the end. And if you build the model and structure it in a really well-structured way, doing scenario and sensitivity analysis is a fairly straightforward process. It's just a matter of changing the variables and seeing, how that changes the output.
This course is amazing. It's mind-blowing. I see it now. I wish I had it back then. From a person starting from nothing, I expect them, after going through this course, that they're going to have a better an expert understanding, and they'll be probably able to get another job from this.
The thing I find when people come on these courses is that a lot of it is, it's just common sense. Like they're like, it makes sense to do that. It's not you're not doing anything with Excel that is against what you're already doing. You just go, that makes sense. Yeah, that's going to make things easier, because really you want to build the model in such a way that it makes it easier for other people coming along after you to be able to make changes or to understand it or to make sense of what you've done. So none of it's, it's not rocket science. It's just basic Excel stuff. But I think what people get when they come out of the course, they can go, okay, I can honestly say that I know exactly what is included in financial modeling. I can quite confidently go into a job interview or say to someone, hey, I'm a financial modeler. Financial modeling is part of my job. Because a lot of people are already doing it. If you're working in finance and you're using Excel and you're using Excel to find out, what price should this be, or what's, the answer to something, and you're putting in formulas and you've put in time series, you're forecasting something, it's a financial model. And so you can say, well, hey, I'm already doing this, so that when you go into an interview, you can quite confidently say that you understand the principles of financial modeling. I think it gives you that confidence.
It does. That's a great analysis there. And the feedback that you get from your students, how has that been?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think it really, so many people have come back and said, well, hey, I've had an interview and I felt so much better going into it, or I got a new job, or, it's really, I I always joke, that it's it's not like you're sort of saving lives or doing anything amazing, with Excel. It's I always find it, when I was working in the corporate environment, and I'd see, friends who like a doctor or a nurse or something, or an ambulance, or and they're doing these amazing jobs, and I'd be like, oh, I got this report out by the end of the day. And you think, oh, it's really, if I don't get this done, no one is going to die, But I now get that real sense of satisfaction from my work, because, I know that I'm making a difference to what people, their everyday lives. I know that when they go to work, so someone comes on my course, right? So I was in Jordan last week and I ran a training course there. And I know that when they went back to work the next day, they're doing their job so much faster than they did before they came on the course, and they're saving themselves so much time. They have so much more confidence when they're going back into the workplace. And I know that I know it's not saving lives or anything, but it's really making a difference to their work life, and meaning that they can get home earlier and just be more confident in their job.
Well, it's not saving lives, but in a way it is, because it's saving their no, it is. It's saving their job. It's saving, if you have the skill, well, they're not going to fire you. You're going to have that job. Or if you have the skill, then you're going to find a better job. So it keeps you in the market. It keeps, the money coming in. And if you don't have that, well, it is life-saving for some people. And
maybe.
So in a way it is. And then when you talk about doctors saving lives, well, I know doctors that, don't save lives and do a bad job. So yeah. So I think we're doing a better job. We're doing a better job than doctors. Don't underestimate us.
I don't know.
I think so.
My husband's an architect, and he sort of comes home and I've built this thing. I've done, I've actually created something. And I go, well, I built a financial model. It's a little bit different. But I honestly believe one of the best things you can do for your career is improve your Excel skills. I know you believe that too, John. I think it's such a great skill to have.
It is. And I always say there's 800 million people using Excel and less than 5% know how to use it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that much time. You just, you spend 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes and slowly learning new things. And within 6 months, you'll be surprised at what you know. If you know 1% more than your next person, then you're seen as an expert. And I was like that when I was working, and I was in as an expert, and I didn't know all of Excel. And I thought, man, this is interesting, because no one knows how to use Excel. And if they did, then it would open up a lot more doors and, give them those promotions they deserve. So,
it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much. Yeah, it doesn't take much. So Excel is your tool to become recession proof, as they say. Yeah, you can get those jobs and stay in the jobs. And that's what it's for. Because the worst thing is, when you don't have a job. And people out there are listening that don't have a job, well, go and, learn, get a course, get an online course, learn Excel. Go in there, talk the talk, and you will get that job. You will get that job. I'm certain of it. Now, how can our listeners get access to this wonderful course of yours, or courses of yours?
Yeah, it's all on the website, plumsolutions.com.au. There should be a link on the homepage, or it's just /e-learning.
Okay, and I'll put the links in the show notes. And do you have any special gifts for our listeners?
Yes. So if you use the coupon code of MyExcelOnline, that will give you $50 off.
Nice. Thank you very much. And guys and girls, take this up. You can find all the links to this course by visiting the show notes on MyExcelOnline.com /podcast. All right. We're back with Danielle's Excel favorites. Now, what is your favorite keyboard shortcut and what does it do?
Oh, I'm sure you know this one. My favorites are Control Z. I love to be able to Control Z. I wish there was a Control Z for my life, for my mouth, for things I say, things I do.
Control Z, and you know what? It's not only in Excel. In a lot of software programs, you do Control Z, and I always do it. And it goes back. Oh man, it saved my life. It saved my life.
Yeah, some programs that don't have it, you go, what? I really need that.
Yeah. I think Excel invented that. Maybe not. Maybe someone else did, and they copied it. But it's a great tip. All right, what's your favorite Excel tip?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm not going to go with something technical. I'm just going to go with more about the sort of best practice, but I suppose it is kind of a tip is just that consistency of formulas, and it's a financial modeling best practice. And I'm sure anybody using Excel has used this, but when you use, it's actually an Excel 101, basic Excel thing is using the dollar signs, putting mixed referencing. So if you anchor the row or the column, but it's amazing how many people don't use that properly and try to have consistency of formulas as much as you can. When you're copying across and down, it's just have one single formula. And it's from a financial model auditing perspective, the fewer unique formulas you can have in your model, the better. It just makes it so much easier and simpler to audit, to understand. And it's quicker to build, and there's just so much less that can go wrong. So I can't stress that enough.
So the absolute reference when you're doing an Excel formula.
Yeah,
F4.
so the mixed, using F4. So the mixed reference, so you put one across the row or the column, or one and not the other, and just getting that mix right, and then being able to be it across and down.
Yeah, do you have a tip for that? Like when to lock the row or when to lock the column? Sometimes when I do that, I look at, okay, I think the row has to be locked, so I got to lock it. It's more by, when I visualize it. Do you have any tips?
It's just practice. Yeah. It's just practice. But, using it over and over again, you sort of figure out which is the best way of doing it. But by always trying to sort of think, well, as I'm building this, I'm trying to build this in a well-structured way to follow best practice, and trying to reduce the number of unique formulas in your model is just always a good thing to keep in mind as you're building it. And to do that, you're using the mixed referencing.
Mm-hmm. Nice tip. Thank you very much.
Can I have one more?
Yes, you can have one. You can have as many as you like. Go for it. You have time for one more. You have 1 minute. Let's go.
Okay. Probably my other tip is just don't overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. Just try to keep things, again, it's not a technical thing, but it's just more something to keep in mind. As you're modeling, just try to keep things as simple as possible, but as complex as necessary. So don't, try to do too much in one cell or one formula, and don't overcomplicate it. Just there's nothing wrong. Just because you know how to do really complicated formulas doesn't mean that you should be building them into your model. So keep it simple.
All right, thanks for that. Now, what is your favorite function and why?
I probably just go with a really basic SUMIF. I just find it really a very flexible tool. I find it much better than a VLOOKUP or something, more complicated. Index match is fantastic, of course, but I know some people find it a little bit harder to get their head around and to build and to audit. So, you can't go past an index match for looking up stuff as a more advanced one. But the SUMIF is just so basic and so flexible. I just use it all the time. And of course, the problem with it, of course, is that you can only have a single criteria. So often I just use a SUMIFs, even though if I only have one criteria, I just go straight for a SUMIFs just in case. And that's just going to make it a lot easier if I want to add another criteria later on.
SUMIFs, beautiful formula, and one you should learn. Now, Excel Addins, the great, the powerful, they add more features to a dull Excel workbook. What's your favorite Excel add-in that you use all the time?
Oh, that's a hard one. And I know I'm going to be a little bit not in line with some of the other guests that you've had on the show, but I'm not a big fan of add-ins. I really believe in using just ordinary, plain Excel, anything that you have to download or buy or, get extra licenses for. Because, I think the best, as I said, the best thing you can do for your career is improve your Excel skills. And I think it's really important to be able to, start a new role or you go to a new organization and say, well, hey, I can build you a fantastic financial model or a dashboard or something. But you need to buy this license. You need to buy this software. I want them to be able to just walk in and say, hey, have you got Excel? Yep, great, we're good to go. Mm-hmm. That you can just use Excel out of the box as it comes. Yeah. And I know that it doesn't have all the functionality and the features that you can get from add-ins, but as for developing your skill set, I think it's really good to be able not to rely on having other licenses and other tools. But having said that, of course, there's all these fantastic new features of modern Excel, which in Excel 2010, 2013 are add-ins. So I would say Power Query or Get and Transform as it's known now. If you're having to install that and add it in, I think that's okay because that's standard Excel. It kind of comes with Excel. So if you're going to use add-ins, I'd say, go with one of those.
Yeah, Power Query is great, and so is Power Pivot as well.
Yes.
Go for it. Apart from your blog, what is a great online resource for learning Excel?
Oh, there's so many. Yeah, I think just rather than naming them all, I think just go in and Google what you're trying to do.
Google them, yeah.
And I would recommend, signing up to, if you can handle a few extra emails in your inbox. I get dozens of Excel newsletters and updates and emails every day. And I just go through them all and go, yep, interesting, yep. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. You just learn. I just learn stuff. And it's such a great way of learning because it's gradual. Getting these email updates from different people around the world. And, a lot of it you probably already know or you've heard of, but you learn things, particularly the new things that are coming out in Excel. And I think it's really important to be up to date with all the latest tools. And even if you haven't got that version of Excel, but you know what's coming and you know what the latest version is, because you want to establish yourself as an Excel expert. You want to know, what's hot, what's coming, what the new thing is, new tools are in Excel.
Yeah, I'm the same. I sign up to most of the Excel blogs out there, and just to see, and I learn every day. I'm not saying I know everything, and you learn, and sometimes they have different webinars or events. Like, okay, let's join that up because that's cool. So it's always good to have that. You might get an email, you'll know about it. So okay, just ignore that. But it's great to have several blogs on your inbox and set time apart so you can go through it and apply what they're teaching.
And it's just professional development time, and most of it's free. I also tend to save it all up. And then, when I'm on the plane or, traveling or you got time, you got some time to sort of go through and have a look and play around with it and, apply it to your Excel.
Now, when you're traveling, it's the best time. That's the best time, apart from having a drink or two. Just actually do some work.
I always say it's one of the good things about living in Australia. It's such a jolly long way to get anywhere. I get hours and hours of uninterrupted Wi-Fi free time.
Well, that's going to change. That's going to change because a lot of airlines are putting Wi-Fi on there.
Yeah, I know. I'm ignoring that. I just pretend it's not there. I like my Wi-Fi free time.
Yeah, no, it's good sometimes, isn't it? All right. Now, if you could recommend one Excel book to our listeners, what would it be?
Oh, it's hard. I'm just looking at my bookshelf. I've got so many. I think I've got just about every Excel book ever written. Well, as I said, I've kind of read quite a few For Dummies books recently, and I'm not something I probably would have thought to get before, but there's some really good resources, and they go into, topics that you wouldn't sort of think to go into, like, dashboards or data analysis or, something specific for Excel. So the For Dummies books I'm actually really enjoying at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Nice one. And are they Excel specific or just general books?
Yeah, there's loads of them. There's, I'm just looking here, I've got Excel 2016, there's Excel data analysis, there's Excel dashboards and reports, there's data visualization I've got on my shelf, and there's also Power Pivot and Power Query. There's, anything specific to, loads of different things. And soon to be financial modeling.
With one L.
With one L, yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. All right. Now you can find the links to this book and everything we've been chatting about today, including tutorials on Danielle's favorite shortcuts and tips by visiting MyExcelOnline.com/podcast. Okay, we've come to the end of the show and we have a professional scenario here. Let's say that I'm an Excel beginner, intermediate, or an intermediate user, and I need to learn the most important features of Excel within a week for an important job interview or a promotion. With all the Excel knowledge that you, Danielle, know today and the online and offline resources available, what will be the quickest way for me to start learning Excel?
I think, as I said before, the most important thing when you're going into an interview is your confidence. If you could know absolutely everything there is to know about Excel, but if you don't feel confident, that's not going to come across. They can't, when they're interviewing you, they might test your skills. They could well test your skills, but assuming they don't, they're just going to go by the way that you answer the questions and the confidence. So I think if you can kind of go into the interview knowing that you know more than most people about Excel, or more than most people that are going to be applying for this job, you can really go in there with confidence. And the best way to get confidence is to practice, to just, as much time as you have available to you, just to go onto the blogs and read, a lot of your webinars, John, that you have available, a lot of the blog articles that I have available, as well as, LinkedIn forums and all those different things, and read through, and don't get too sort of bogged down in stuff. Just try to sort of keep it light, but try to apply. You go into Excel and think about the scenarios that you've used or the situations that you've been in previous roles, and think about how you would apply those new techniques and formulas. Don't sort of cram and try to do too much because you'll get sort of overwhelmed. But, just try to apply those and think about how you would do that in your job situation.
Yeah, and confidence, that's a great answer. Confidence plays a big part. And if you can transmit that to the employer or prospective employer, then you're halfway there.
Yeah, and you'll only get that confidence if you know what you're talking about. So make sure you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And if he asks you a question, then just, answer him with a question back. So you can, you can avoid that. Yeah. And another great tip is to take in your pen drive. What I did is when I got my job at General Electric, I was practicing all these dashboards in my previous job. And then I made these cool dashboards, and then I actually put it on a pen drive, and I go, look, I did the interview, and I left in the pen drive. I go, this is for you. Have a look at it. And it had all my, what I did. And then, I ended up getting that job. I don't know whether it was because of the pen drive, but it does help. Yeah, it shows them, what you're capable of. Of course, you can go
as long as they're as long as it's files that you've done yourself.
Exactly. You can't. I know. You're probably the only one that's going to come in with a pen drive, so they're going to think, okay,
probably,
all right. Yeah. At least it went.
But if you are going to do that, make sure that the author on that file is yourself. Make sure you haven't sort of.
Yes. It's a good tip. So use it. It may work, may not. That's a nice. Thanks for your answer. That's great. I appreciate that. And confidence is number one. And the best way to get that is just to practice and have a general knowledge of the most popular features within Excel. Now, what will be the best Excel feature that this person should focus on going into this interview?
Yeah, probably. In financial modelling, it's all about the formulas. It's all about using, the correct formula in the correct context and building it in such a way to reduce errors. That's probably the thing to focus on. Yeah, reduction of errors and formulas.
All right, nice. And have you seen any financial models where errors from the user have led to corporations collapsing?
Not personally.
But there was something on the internet, wasn't there? The top 10 Excel mistakes.
Yeah, there's some good. If you Google Excel horror stories, there's lots of well-documented situations where that's happened, and it's absolutely terrifying.
It is. And are they're not financial models. That's just anything, isn't it? That could be just.
Yeah, it could be. A lot of it is financial models because you're making it. The financial model is for making a financial decision, and often that's got a mistake in it. That's how it can easily happen. But any kind of Excel piece of analysis could potentially have a mistake.
Yes. Scary, isn't it? A lot of people rely on Excel to make important decisions, and
it's terrifying. And you don't realize, I think people don't, when they're not using Excel all day, every day, they have this kind of blind faith or confidence in Excel, which is unfounded. You shouldn't rely on Excel so much. If you are using Excel, you realize just how easy it is to make a mistake, and you don't just take it as at face value. You want to know, if someone says, oh, the financial model says that we're going to make this much money, I go, well, hang on, based on what? Like, how did you come up with those calculations?
Scary, and that's the reality we live in. So sharpen up your skills and make yourself stand out from the crowd by becoming those people that don't make those mistakes. You're not, they don't write an article about you in those Excel stories. So try to avoid that. Try to avoid that.
That's a career limiting move if something like that happens.
It is. And if you follow Danielle's course, then I'm sure that you're going to be well protected and by the things that you learn, and you're not going to be making those mistakes. Now, I've seen that you've been traveling around the globe, all the way to Mars. And where have you been? No, not quite. But where have you been? Where have you been traveling to?
I've been traveling a lot lately.
Donald Trump, have you been with him on his campaign? And
No, definitely not. Go to Dubai a couple of times a year. So I run a financial modelling. That's a 5-day certificate in financial modelling course.
That'd be nice. I love Dubai.
George Washington University is the certificate with that one. So that's a fairly regular gig. And then I did just last week, I came back from Jordan where I was doing an in-house course for a telecommunications company there in Amman. So that was just for 3 days. So that was a very quick trip, but it was lots of fun. I got to do a little bit of sightseeing. So that was nice. So it's always nice to go somewhere a little bit different. I had been to Jordan many, many years ago, so it was nice to go back and visit my old stomping ground.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. I haven't been there, and hopefully I'll get there one day. Well, that's a perks of your job, isn't it?
Sure is. Yeah. Excel takes me all over the world, and it's amazing. You can get off a plane, completely different time zone, completely different, language, you don't understand anything that's going on, and yet the principles of financial modeling are exactly the same. The formulas are exactly the same, and it's all the same. Excel is the same all over the world.
It is. It's a unique language that we talk. Now, what's the best way for someone to connect with you if they want to hire you as a speaker or as a trainer? What is the best way to connect with yourself?
Yeah, well, on the website, plumsolutions.com.au has got all of the contact details on there, but probably the place, and I'm all over the social media, of course, so Facebook and Twitter and, all of that, but probably the place I'm most active is on LinkedIn. So most people seem to sort of hang out on LinkedIn the most, and because of my it's called Financial Modeling in Excel is the group that I have on LinkedIn, or just send me a connection request if you're interested in financial modelling. I would love to connect with you and hear from you.
Danielle, thank you for today's show. It's been an eye-opener for myself and a lot of other people. I wish, I had that, your website when I started out, and, you do a lot of great stuff, the speaking gigs, you're traveling. I appreciate your time today. And a lot of listeners as well.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Danielle, thank you very much. And when you bring out the Dummies book, then I'm going to get you back on to talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right. Cheerio. Thank you very much. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Hey, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast show. Thank you for listening. Now, I need your help. I need you to please leave an honest review for the MyExcelOnline podcast on iTunes. Now, ratings and reviews are extremely helpful and greatly appreciated, and I read each and every one of them. So if you go onto iTunes and search for the MyExcelOnline podcast, you can leave a review and also subscribe so you can receive all the new episodes as soon as they come out. Also, if you go over to my blog at MyExcelOnline.com/blog, you can subscribe to receive weekly Excel lessons for free. Now, these are going to be delivered to your inbox each and every Friday, containing a lesson on formulas, pivot tables, charts, and analysis. By signing up, you also get a copy of my free Excel ebook called The Ultimate Excel Resource Guide. Now, in this ebook, I show you and review the best Excel blogs, the best Excel YouTube channels, the must-have Excel forums for you to succeed. I handpick and review the best Excel online courses. I show you the various Excel books that are available, And I also explain the different time-saving add-ins that you must have in order to get the full potential out of Excel. Plus, I have much more information. Now, this ebook is jam-packed full of value and it's free if you sign up to my weekly Excel lessons. So go over onto my Excel blog and subscribe to receive your free ebook and also get your awesome weekly lessons. All right, until the next episode, keep excelling.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the My Excel Online podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share this with your colleagues so they can reach their full Excel potential. You can also visit MyExcelOnline.com/podcast for show notes as well as John's online Excel courses and free tutorials to help you stand out from the crowd. Until next time, keep excelling.